Hey guys, how's it going? F8 Alpha here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking a look at the monstrosity at Tier 6. We're taking a look at the SU-100Y, and we will be comparing it to the Dicker Max. Now, both of these tanks are in the gift shop right now. The SU-100Y is 1729, and the Dicker Max is 1709, so about a 20-cent difference. Now, obviously, if you're in a different country in the UK, or Europe or wherever, obviously the currency will be a little bit different, but the SU-100Y is just a little bit more expensive, but it's not a substantial number. Now let's go ahead and get into the comparison here. Let's start off with the DPM. The Dicker Max has a DPM of 2018, where the SU-100Y has a 1720, making the Dicker Max have a increase in DPM by about 300. So that's about one shell from the Dicker Max. Now let's look at the alpha damage per shot, and this is kind of where the difference is very substantial. The SU-100Y has a 130 millimeter naval gun, where the Dicker Max has a 105 millimeter slower velocity gun on it, meaning that the Dicker Max has a 300 alpha damage, where the SU-100Y has a 440 alpha damage. Also, one thing to note is the penetration. The SU-100Y has 196 penetration on its standard AP shells, where the Dicker Max has 169 millimeters of penetration on its standard AP shells. Also, looking at the reload time, the Dicker Max has a 8.9 second reload time compared to the SU-100Y, which has a 15.3 second aim time, making the Dicker Max obviously a more rapid fire TD at Tier 6. Now the aim time is better for the Dicker Max. It has a 2.2 second aim time versus the SU-100Y, which has a 2.7. Now the SU-100Y does have a better damage versus modules. When you're landing these shells, it does 180 damage to the modules that it hits, compared to the Dicker Max that does 150. Now this is important when you're, say, engaging a tank and you're looking to either track them or possibly set them on fire. This has a huge impact on that, as the SU-100Y will be able to knock out those modules more effectively. Now, the ammunition count on the Dicker Max is lower. It has a 26 ammunition count on it versus the SU-100Y, which has a 30. So what this means is that the potential damage with the SU-100Y is almost double that of the Dicker Max. It has a 13,200. Compare that to the Dicker Max that has a 7,800. So you have the potential to do more damage with the SU-100Y. Now let's go ahead and move over to mobility here. The Dicker Max has a faster top speed of 40 kilometers an hour compared to the SU-100Y that has a 35 kilometer hour top speed. The Dicker Max has a horsepower per ton of 10.8 compared to the SU-100Y that has a 13.9. So what this means is that the SU-100Y, even though it's bigger and it is heavier, it will be traveling up those hills quicker. It will be getting to those positions faster if they are up on a hill or up on top of a ridge or something. This tank, the 100Y, will be getting up there faster, which is very important for positioning early on in the battle. Now, traverse. The Dicker Max has a better traverse of 36.5 compared to the SU-100Y, which has a 31.2. The elevation on the Dicker Max is 10 degrees, where the elevation on the SU-100Y is 15. But probably the biggest impact and the way you're going to play this tank is in the depression. The Dicker Max has a depression of 15 degrees, where the SU-100Y only has 5 degrees, so it makes the Dicker Max a much more viable option when it comes to fighting over those hills or fighting over those ridges or trying to get those shots down on your enemy. The SU-100Y is going to struggle greatly to get that gun down on those enemies if you're in those positions. Now, if we're looking at the armor on these tanks, the Dicker Max has 50 millimeters on the front, 20 millimeters on the side, and 20 millimeters at the rear, compared to the SU-100Y that has 60 front, side, and rear on it. So what that means is that if your enemy is firing those HE shells at you, those high explosive shells, they will have a much better chance of penetrating their HE shells if you're driving the Dicker Max. Also, a little quick note is that the Dicker Max is an open top tank, making those HE shells that much more devastating on your crew and modules. Another key feature here is that the Dicker Max has 400 meters view range on it, compared to the SU-100Y that has a 350 meter view range on it. Now I wanted to go ahead and talk about the premium ammunition in both of these tanks. So the Dicker Max gets APCR rounds that have 227 millimeters of penetration. Now the SU-100Y is a little bit different. The premium rounds on it actually decrease the penetration, so it goes from 196 on its standard AP shells to 171 on its premium AP shells, but the difference is that the damage is increased. The premium AP shells on the SU-100Y have a 510 alpha damage on them. So what this means is that you can one-shot a great number of tier 5s and absolutely devastate tier 6s and even tier 7s. Now as far as equipment goes on these tanks, I would have to go with, and this would be for both of them, the gun rammer. I would have to go with binoculars, and I'd have to go with camo net, which is basically the standard when it comes to TDs. That's kind of the standard thing. Thoughts on this, my thoughts on these two tanks is that the SU-100Y is more enjoyable to play. Just to see that devastation of that alpha damage when it lands is very satisfying. It's nice to see a tank take most of its health away just by one click of the mouse. That is fantastic. Now, the Dicker Max is a much more strategic tank. If you know the maps, you know the positionings, the Dicker Max can do very, very good. But mind you, that lower ammunition count kind of limits this tank in its potential, as it is very crucial that you bring the right amount of ammunition. And since you do not know what tier of battle you'll be fighting in, it is hard to kind of make that judgment. You know, do you bring more premium rounds? Do you bring some HE rounds for the softer targets? Do you bring more AP rounds because you're engaging tier 6s? It's a little bit more difficult with the Dicker Max. In this comparison, I would have to go with the SU-100Y if I was looking at getting one of these tanks or picking one up for free via the tank rewards. I would probably go with the SU-100Y. It makes good credits. It is fun to play. Just learn how to play the tank because it is huge, making it a easy target to spot. So basically, you sit in the back with this tank. It's like a traditional TD. You sit in the back and you fire from the back, hopefully out of view range, so that they don't spot you and destroy this tank. But with that said, guys, that's my comparison. That's my thoughts on the SU-100Y and the Dicker Max. I am F8 Alpha, and I will catch you guys next time.